after a long and unseasonably cold winter here on the coast of North Carolina, I am ready to let go of winter and say hello to spring. So I'm resetting my home for the new season. So the first thing I'm doing is reorganizing my closet. And don't judge my really messy closet here. We moved into this house 5 years ago, and this closet has basically just been a hole in the wall. There's really not been a way to organize anything because there's no structure and there's no organizing system in place. It's basically just a couple of racks for hanging things and a few overhead shelves. But spring is a really good time to pick an organizing project, whether that means organizing some of your cabinets, maybe organizing a playroom, or in this case, organizing a closet. It almost doesn't matter what you choose to organize. I think if we just make the decision to organize something, we feel a little bit better. We create a little bit of space and get rid of some of that winter accumulation so we can prepare for all that the new season has to offer. I think spring organizing is a little metaphorical or even just symbolic, but I really do think it makes us feel better. I mean, anytime things are organized, life just feels better all around, but there's something about this organizing for spring that really helps things just feel lighter and airier for the new season. So here we took out all of those wire shelves. I think builders call them ventilated shelving, which is just a fancy word for crappy shelving, to be honest with you. But we took that out and we are putting in a closet organizing system. You can get these systems at different stores. I opted for the cheapest one we could find on Amazon because the reality is I go into my closet for maybe 60 to 90 seconds a day to figure out what I'm going to wear, and then I don't go back in there again until later that day or even the next day. I don't really do huge overhauls for these projects because I just don't have the time or the pockets of time to do giant projects. But for sure, even on a small project, one of the easiest and best ways to really get through things is to take everything out of it, declutter it, and then only return what you're actually going to use. So I took everything out of my closet and then I sorted through my clothes, and what I didn't want, I donated. And then of course, what I did want, I kept. But by getting rid of those things, it opens up a lot of space so that way you can stay more organized. And I know we all kind of know that, but sometimes we just need that reminder that we have to let some stuff go. I usually look for things that I haven't touched in 6 months or more. And if they aren't meaningful, I get rid of those things. And then I also look for things that I find them just constantly shuffling around from one space to the next or one room to the next. If it doesn't have a home and you can't find a home for it and all you're doing is moving it around, it also needs to go too. Now, in terms of organizing my closet for spring, I don't really have a particular method. We have weird seasons here in North Carolina, and I never pack up my winter clothes because I don't really have a lot of winter clothes, and I don't pack up my summer clothes because I wear them all year long. But if you're in a place that has more extreme seasons, this is an opportunity to start packing up all of your sweaters, all of your winter socks, your winter boots, and putting them somewhere where they aren't in the way. So that way you just have space for the things that you are going to use. So I simply just organized my closet with dresses and overalls on one side, sweaters and cardigans on the other side. And those are things I do wear all year long because in the winter I want them because it's cooler, and in the summer I want them because the air conditioning is too much. And then short sleeve clothes on another side. On the back side of my closet, I have towels for our bathroom and drawers to keep our bathroom items organized. And then I also kept one of those regular ventilated shelves for all of my long dresses and long jackets. Of course, anytime we think of a spring reset, we think of spring cleaning, and I almost always default to a kitchen deep clean. I think when we are resetting our homes for spring, you should pick any cleaning project that would make your home feel better, but for me, that is always the kitchen. It's where we spend the most time, it's where I make the biggest mess, and it always just needs that scrub down at least once a season. One of my best tips for deep cleaning, if you are like me and really don't like deep cleaning, I can handle the day-to-day cleaning, I just really don't like deep cleaning. So what I do is I set a timer or I schedule a pocket of time to do one project. So of course here I am doing the kitchen, but then the next day I might schedule a pocket of time to clean something else, which really needs to be my baseboards, by the way. And then maybe the next day or on the weekend, I schedule a little pocket of time to do something else. So that way it doesn't feel like this huge overhaul, but you're still being productive and you can weave that deep cleaning into your day to day. On this particular day, I gave myself myself 2 hours. So the first thing I did is I took all my appliances off of my counters and I just piled them up on my kitchen island for the time being. And then I just wiped off all of the coffee grinds and things that were underneath those appliances. And then I start working my way from top to bottom. So I like to wipe down the cabinetry because it's always dirtier than what it seems. So I start with my top cabinets and then I go down to the lower cabinets, but I always save the cabinets above my microwave for last because they are the nastiest. So I just want to save that so that way my towels don't get too dirty or too greasy as I'm cleaning all of the other cabinetry in my kitchen. I've tried various ways of cleaning my cabinetry over the years, including steam cleaning, but really, I think the easiest thing to do, especially if you're short on time, is just to use a soft rag and just dampen it. I use my regular homemade kitchen cleaner, which just has the tiniest bit of Castile soap in it, and that helps cut some of the grease. I wouldn't use a full-blown cleaner. I wouldn't spray a lot of chemicals on your cabinetry, especially if they're wood or laminated, but just a little bit of dampness on that towel can help wipe off all that dirt and greasy residue in your kitchen. The other thing I like to do during these mini deep cleans, as sometimes I call them, is to wipe down all of my kitchen appliances, especially the ones that sit on the counter, because they tend to get ignored sometimes. I just use them and push them back and don't really think about it again. So anything with a metal or ceramic finish, like my KitchenAid mixer or my canisters that I have on the counter, or even my crock that I keep my utensils in, I like to wipe them down with a damp towel. Again, just that regular kitchen cleaner that I use with a little bit of Castile soap does the trick. And then for anything wood, like my grain mill, I just use a dry towel and wipe it off. One of the things that really helps when you are doing these kitchen deep cleans is to make sure you're looking at everything from different angles. You get really used to just looking at your kitchen in a particular way, but if you look at it from above and if you look at it from below and then maybe from right to left, you can see where maybe some dirt and grease is hiding on your cabinetry or on your appliances. I also recommend having a stack of rags or towels that you can use. So underneath my kitchen sink, I have a little drawer organizer and I just keep it stocked full of towels that I use for cleaning only. So that way you're not rolling through a bunch of paper towels. You can swap out a towel as soon as one gets dirty so you're not transferring that dirt and grease onto other parts of your kitchen. And it just makes the process a little bit easier when you are prepared with those towels. Now, we aren't a completely paper towel free home. We do go through some rolls of paper towels here and there, but for cleaning, I really never use paper towels because they just don't clean that well. If you're going to take the time to clean your kitchen like this or to clean any space of your house, you might as well use something that works better, that you can really scrub your appliances with, that you can really get off that dirt and grime, because otherwise paper towels are expensive and they're just not going to get the job done as well. One of the other things I always do during one of these kitchen deep cleans, whether it's a big one or a mini one, is I wipe off the front of all of my stainless steel appliances. I really like stainless steel wipes. I can't remember the name of the brand that I use right now, but I will link them in the description box below. But they're really good at getting spots off of stainless steel appliances. So I just take the little wipe and of course I wipe the front of it down, and then I take a dry towel and I wipe it again just to remove any streaks and any residue from the cleaner. There are a few things I recommend skipping during a deep clean. One, I wouldn't worry about having too many cleaners. One good kitchen cleaner will get the job done, and then maybe you need something for stainless steel appliances, for example. But you don't need a ton of cleaners to keep a clean kitchen or a clean home. Two, during a deep clean like this, I don't worry about the dishes at all. My sink actually has a bunch of dirty dishes in it while I'm cleaning it, but the dishes are going to get done either way. This time is set aside for things that I'm not going to get done during the day to day, the things that I forget to do or I don't have time to do, or honestly that often I don't want to do. But the dishes, they always get done, so I don't worry about them. I also don't really recommend reorganizing your kitchen the same day that you're deep cleaning it. Of course, if you have a ton of time, you can definitely do that. But if you're working in a short window of time, I recommend just doing one or the other because those are different types of tasks and require a different type of mindset. So on this day, I'm cleaning and then I'm going to go back to my drawers and my refrigerator and even my pantry and reorganize them later. A great way to welcome spring into your home is to create more light in your space. So here I'm cleaning off my light fixtures because they get really grimy and it's kind of hard for me to notice it sometimes because they are overhead. But just by wiping them down, the kitchen feels a lot brighter. That light is much more ambient and it feels better for spring. So whether you're cleaning your light fixtures, changing light bulbs, opening a window, or just switching up some decor in your kitchen to make it feel lighter and brighter and airier, I really recommend doing that for spring. Spring is the time to refresh our homes, and of course we can do that through reorganizing or cleaning. But I think one of the best ways to do that is to bring fresh plants and fresh flowers into the home. In my kitchen, I have a couple of house plants that need to be repotted. I need to hit up the thrift store soon to see if I can find some pots for them. But when it comes to houseplants, I try not to spend too much money on them because they don't always survive. I look for plants that are hardy, that can survive if they don't get watered all the time, and that don't need a ton of light because I don't have a lot of sunlight that comes into my home, especially downstairs. Here I am arranging some cut flowers that I got at the grocery store. I tend to not buy a lot of flowers because they are expensive, but this time of year, I just kind of can't resist these spring flowers. They're just so beautiful, and I really love having them in my home. For cut flowers, I often like to arrange them in containers that are not a vase, like a pitcher, or maybe you have a milk jug, something like that. I think it just adds a little bit of a different aesthetic to it. In this case, I'm using a clear pitcher. It actually has cute little butterflies and birds, some sort of springtime qualities about it. I got that at a thrift store a couple of weeks ago, and I like using that glass pitcher for this because, of course, it's see-through, it's light, it's airy, which really counterbalances a lot of the dark and heavy aesthetic qualities of winter decor. Quite possibly the most important part of welcoming spring or a new season into your home is to enjoy it and to celebrate it. And for me, that almost always means I switch up what I'm baking. Some of my life's greatest joys and pleasures have been found in baking, and I really love to switch up my recipes and the flavors that I use for the season. And now I think spring baking is tied with fall baking. I like them both about equally, but this time of year, I really enjoy all those light flavors of spring. So here I am making some sourdough strawberry chocolate chip scones, which I know is a lot to say, but they are delicious. You can get this recipe over my blog at moonandmagnolia.com. The common complaint about scones is that they're always too hard and too dry, but these are super light and fluffy. And there's a few secrets to getting a really light and fluffy scone. One is it needs acid. So in this case, I use 1 cup of milk and a tablespoon of white vinegar to create a homemade buttermilk, or you could just use a cup of buttermilk. The other ingredient that makes them really soft and tender is sourdough starter discard. Sourdough starter is a fermented combination of flour and water, and it is acidic. So by adding those acidic ingredients into the dough or to the batter, it makes for a softer scone. The other trick is to use a high hydration, meaning that you have a pretty sticky scone dough or batter. A scone is sort of like a hybrid or a mashup between a cookie and a biscuit. And if you're used to working with cookie batter or biscuit dough, it's not really sticky, but scone dough is actually supposed to be pretty sticky. So you'll see here that I'm using my hands to mix it, and I use my hands to handle it. But to do that, make sure you're using wet hands because otherwise it will stick all over your hands. If your scone dough is really sticky, it is correct. It shouldn't be runny, but it should definitely be stickier than what you think it probably would be. I included 1 cup of chopped strawberries, and I recommend dicing them. If you put whole or half strawberries in there, it can create soggy pockets in the scones, but if you dice them, you'll have fewer soggy spots. And then I also put in a 1/2 cup of dark chocolate chips. You could use any type of chocolate chip you prefer. I let that sit in the fridge for about 4 hours. You really want it to be cold because that will also help them rise better and hold their shape. And then once the dough was chilled, I put it onto a parchment lined baking sheet, divided it into 8 equal wedges, and baked it at 400 for about 25 minutes or so until they are golden. But you can see these have a beautiful rise. The crumb is really light and fluffy. It's kind of like a biscuit, but it has the buttery goodness of a croissant, and they are so good. That is what's happening around my home for spring. I hope you are off to a beautiful spring season. Thanks so much for stopping by today, and I'll see you again next time.